Air Pest Control, and Old National Bank.
This is a paid legal ad.
When a family member is lost as a result of someone else's negligence, the grief can be unbearable. It also leaves you with a lot of questions like, how did this happen? Who's responsible? And is my family going to be okay? That's a lot to go through, but with the law offices of John Day on your side, you don't have to go through any of it alone. We understand what you're going through, and we have the experience to get the answers, justice, and compensation your family deserves. Call the law offices of John Day.
WGNS is celebrating 79 years of service to the community. Thanks for tuning in. You hear us talking on the radio how Greenhouse Ministries needs volunteers. The best thing is to attend a volunteer orientation session. And there's one every Wednesday afternoon at 2 or Thursday mornings at 10. And if those don't fit your schedule, there's one on the last Saturday of each month 9 o'clock in the morning. These volunteer orientation sessions are at Greenhouse Ministries. Maybe you have a new computer. The Rutherford County Library System is offering free computer classes. They're over at the Tech Center at 306 Minerva Drive here in Murfreesboro, and they're free. The Red Cross is still critically low on blood. Please give the gift of life at the Red Cross. Phone 800-RED-CROSS and make an appointment to give blood at a time that fits your schedule. Don't forget, this Sunday is the deadline to get the buy one, get one free passes to SportsCom and the Patterson Community Center. Those are WGNS Good Neighbor events.
The Doug Young Educator of the Month, sponsored by City Tile and Floor Covering on Spring Street, is Amy Swikard, an early childhood education assistant at Holloway High School.
I always wanted to have a house full of children and was unable to have my own, so being in education allows me to share my love, guidance, and encouragement with the students every day.
Amy says the best part about her job is loving on the babies each day.
The opportunity to nurture and care for the babies each day, giving them love and attention while their moms focus on completing their education. Being able to support both the child and their moms in this way makes my role incredibly rewarding.
Amy Swikard, an early childhood education assistant at Holloway High School, is the Educator of the Month.
Inspiring even one family to believe in themselves would be the greatest accomplishment of all.
The Doug Young Educator of the Month, sponsored by City Tile and Floor Covering. Know an outstanding teacher? Nominate them at WGNSradio.com/educator.
If you're near retirement or thinking about retiring, you probably have a lot of questions. How do you make your savings last? You're ready for retirement, but are your finances? Let's work together to help ensure your finances can keep up with your unique needs over the long haul. I'm Edward Jones Financial Advisor Lee Colvin. Stop by our office in the Public Shopping Center on South Rutherford Boulevard or give us a call at 615-907-7056 for an appointment. Edward Jones, Making Sense of Investing, member SIPC.
When it comes to your home, memories and sentimental value are priceless. Farrah Construction can remodel your home or can update your kitchen, bath, or other rooms. I'm Ron Hall. If you can dream it, Farrah Construction can turn it into reality. Call Farrah Construction at 615-893-6120. That's Farrah Construction. I'm Ron Hall. Shop local. Let our family business help you. Farrah Construction Company.
It's All That's News with Matt Lane on News Radio WGNS.
The News Watch continues with an update from CBS News next.
Portions of our programming have been pre-recorded. The Good Neighbor Network, WGNS Murfreesboro, W270AF Murfreesboro, W263AI Murfreesboro, Smyrna.
This is CBS News on the Hour, your home for original reporting.
I'm Jennifer Kuiper. Iranian activists say the death toll as a result of a crackdown on protesters tops 3,000 as the U.S. moves carrier strike group into the region. The USS Abraham Lincoln Aircraft Carrier Strike Group has begun to move west from the Indo-Pacific towards the Middle East, according to a source familiar, and satellite imagery confirmed by CBS News. As CBS's Charlie D'Agata reports,
what this does is it gives the United States and President Trump, should it come to that, options. Because if there are going to be attacks, there's going to be retaliation. And it's been said that nothing gets the attention of the Iranians more than an aircraft carrier.
There is currently no air carrier strike group in the Middle East. Also, the European Union is advising airlines to avoid Iranian airspace. Closer to the U.S., the Federal Aviation Administration has warned of military activities over Mexico and Central America, warning airlines to exercise caution due to a potentially hazardous situation, citing the chance for interference to the global navigation satellite system. Two U.S. officials tell CBS Minnesota that Minnesota Governor Tim Walz and Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Fry are under federal investigation for allegedly obstructing law enforcement activities. The investigation comes after new details are released on the January 7th fatal shooting of Renee Good in South Minneapolis by ICE officer Jonathan Ross. The report says Good had at least 3 gunshot wounds on her chest, her left arm, and a possible one on her head. Daily protests have followed that shooting, and this weekend is expected to bring larger protests and a rally in support of ICE. Bob Jacobson is commissioner of the Department of Public Safety.
Again, call on those who may decide to attend any demonstrations or gatherings in the city of Minneapolis or anywhere. Please remain calm, be peaceful, exercise your right to voice your opinions, but avoid confrontations, violence, or any property damage.
The Supreme Court agrees to hear an appeal from the maker of Roundup weed killer. Bayer, the manufacturer, seeks to block thousands of lawsuits that allege it failed to provide a warning that a key ingredient in Roundup could cause cancer. The EPA had approved Roundup without a cancer warning. Loyola Law School professor Lori Levinson.
Roundup weed killer made by Monsanto claims that in fact that they did not do anything wrong because the EPA approved the Roundup weed killer without a cancer warning. And therefore the federal action preempts any state lawsuits.
President Trump plans to pardon former Puerto Rico Governor Wanda Vasquez in a campaign finance case. That according to a White House official who spoke on condition of anonymity. This is CBS News.
Follow and listen to CBS News Roundup on the free Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Okay, I have to tell you, I was just looking on eBay where I go for all kinds of things I love, and there it was.
That hologram trading card. One of the rarest, the last one I needed for my set. Shiny like the
designer handbag of my dreams. One of a kind. eBay had it, and now everyone's asking, ooh, where'd you get your
windshield wipers? eBay has all the parts that fit my car. No more annoying, just beautiful.
Millions of finds, each with a story. eBay. Things people love.
Welcome back to Winter Hack Radio, the place for clever hacks to survive the season. Icy driveway? Well, try spreading sand or birdseed to help with traction. Snowy puppy paws? Well, grab a whisk, brush it off, done. Catch COVID-19? Well, just get...
Actually, there's no hack for COVID-19. But if you test positive, prescription medications for COVID exist. Ask your doctor if they're right for you. Visit PfizerForAll.com to learn more. Sponsored by Pfizer.
Afternoon. Starting to slow down a bit over here on 440 eastbound as you approach Nolensville Pike as that traffic gets heavier to the south now. On 65 down into Williamson County there through Franklin, Brentwood. Normal buildup, if you want to call it that, over here on 65 north now. That's happening as you head past OHB, continuing on up into Goodlettsville. Stein Dental Care in Nashville. It's been around since 1978. These guys are the best. Check them out online. Stein Dental Care in Nashville. I'm Commander Chuck with your on-time traffic.
Premier 6 Theater on Broad in Jackson Heights.
Let's all go to the movies.
Check out what's showing at murfreesboromovies.com. Popcorn popped fresh daily.
Movies at the good old
Premier 6 on Broad in Jackson Heights.
Rutherford weather.
Rain showers are likely for tonight with mostly cloudy skies. Temperatures fall back to around 32. A mix of sun and clouds for the day on Saturday, high around 44, and it becomes breezy. I'm meteorologist Regina Kroll from the WGNS Rutherford Weather Center. Right now, it's 55 degrees.
We do it your way, Sir Pizza.
Your favorites can now be ordered online at sirpizzatn.com. Carryout and delivery are available. Just go to sirpizzatn.com and tap the location closest to you.
We're the Good Neighbor Network, FM 101.9 and AM 1450 Murfreesboro, FM 100.5 Smyrna, audio and video streaming at WGNSradio.com.
This is the Blue Rager Podcast on WGNS, presented by Gold's Gym of Tennessee. It's your all-access pass to everything Middle Tennessee sports. game recaps, player spotlights, and the latest from the heart of Blue Raider Nation. Now, here's your host, Jake Bolden.
Welcome back to the Blue Raider podcast presented by Gold's Gym of Tennessee. I have a lot of stuff to talk about in today's episode. Last week, I promised you some transfer portal updates, and good thing we waited a week as we have a lot of new stuff rolling in. So we're going to be talking all things transfer portal updates as that portal is officially closed. I'm not sure the exact time, but it is closed. We've got the Ice Hockey Club president and assistant captain Zach Giblin's going to be joining us to promote their Sunday night matchup at Bridgestone Arena against Vanderbilt. And, of course, we're going to be recapping the men's and women's trip to Ruston, Louisiana for the midweek and previewing their Saturday games ahead. But before we get into today's episode, our presenting sponsor, Gold Gym of Tennessee, has a new month-to-month pricing now available online with no additional fees. The Gold membership is just $25 bi-weekly with a $40 enrollment, or you can upgrade to the family plan for you and your significant other at $45 bi-weekly with only a $20 enrollment. That membership gives you access to all 16 Gold Gym locations across Tennessee, along with group exercise classes and childcare. Again, all included, no hidden costs. So visit Gold's Gym of Tennessee online at goldsgym.com to learn more and find a location near you. And of course, if you're listening to us today on our live stream on YouTube, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss one of our uploads. And of course, our Saturday live press conferences will be on there. And if you're listening to us on our social media live streams on X and Facebook at Blue Raider Pod, make sure you hit that follow or the subscribe button again so you don't miss any more uploads. If you want to call into the studio today as I'm going over everything, feel free to do so. Our lines are open at 615-893-1450, and our producer will pick up your call. Quickly now, before we get into that football transfer portal talk, as I promised, men's tennis season is kicked off. Coach Jimmy Borendame going for that 7-peat in Conference USA, of course. That conference season doesn't really start until later in the spring, but their indoor season kicked off today with a doubleheader against Lipscomb and Tennessee Tech, two in-state opponents. They already are in the win column, picking up the early victory over Lipscomb, 7-0, made light work of the Bisons. And then here shortly, they're going to be starting things off against the Golden Eagles of Tennessee Tech. But I wanted to get into them first, not only because their season started today, but if you follow this program closely, they're the winningest program we've got, and I certainly think that they have earned the right to be talked about. This year is, as they always, just like all the other sports, if you don't follow men's tennis, just like all the other sports, they get picked apart by the transfer portal, and this team had to replace 4 of their starting 6. They've had a lot of work in that category, but they return Andre Orak and Kareem Alameen, both of them ranked 18th as a doubles duo over the fall. So those two are heading up the 1 and 2 courts for them in the singles. But some new guys that have been added in, Jonasz Jopak, he's the Polish player on court 3 today, picked up a win. Eric Krive, the Kentucky transfer, picked up a win on court 4. And then Antoine Mayoral also picked up a win on court 5 against Lipscomb. So they're certainly going to be shuffling through that today, I'm sure, as they have a second matchup against Tennessee Tech. A lot of bodies can be thrown out there today. I'm excited about what this team brings. I fully anticipate this team is still better than ever, and they are poised for that 7th straight Conference USA championship. The women, however, they don't start for another week, so just keep our eyes peeled for that one next Saturday in Fort Myers as they take on Florida A&M, and then on Sunday they'll have a matchup with the host, Florida Gulf Coast University. So exciting tennis season. I think the women are going to surprise a lot of people this year with their nice transfer portal class, but I have to give them their props as we start that season. Now, the transfer portal news. A lot to divulge here. Again, last week I might have been premature, so probably for the best that things got cut short. But this week I've got a lot for you. Let's go ahead and paint this picture of what is the MTSU football roster. They have 16 players graduated, and they have 22 players that are currently in the portal. And as I said at the very beginning of this episode, the portal is officially closed, so there might be a specific timeline, and we might have someone that goes in at the 12th hour, but as far as I'm concerned, no other players have entered the portal that I'm aware of, and certainly some could sneak in here at the last minute, but that gives you 38 total players from last year's roster no longer on roster, and I may be missing some here and there. As I've gone through my research here, I certainly pick up a few players that I missed originally, but 38 total by my count. 27 of those 38 players have starting experience, and 14 of them started at least half the games. So that's you're going to have a lot of experience that you're going to have to replace. But before I get into those guys that have replaced them, you probably want to know, well, who's left? Well, the big important one on the offensive side that we all know is Roman Gagliano. We all know what he did in the back half of the season with Nick Vadiato's injury. All excited to have him back. A lot of speculation if he would enter the portal. I think he was always Derek Mason's guy. Obviously, he made an impression on the Blue Raider faithful, even from the day he stepped on campus and his half-court shot at the Conference USA tournament. But he's a lovable kid. I think you should be excited about the talent and skill set that he brings to this team. But outside of him, the other guys that are returning: A.J. Jones, Cam Lacey, my favorite wide receiver, Gamarian Carter, the Landon Collins, the previous walk-on, now scholarship earner at running back, the Riverdale Murfreesboro native DJ Taylor. On the offensive line, you're going to return Otto Van Rensburg, and then at tight end, you have Tavion Galloway. If you remember, he transferred in from Purdue last year. And then the defensive side, it's pretty slim pickings as far as guys that receive playing time. At safety, you've got Kalen Woods and Chris Noble, who was a true freshman last year. And then out wide at cornerback, Jackson Lowe, and linebacker Corey Smith, who received a lot of snaps later in the year, as well as special teams. And then speaking of special teams, you're going to return your punter, Ashton Logan, and your kicker, Jacob Hathaway. And we found out late that we have our freshman that transferred to James Madison, our place kicker there, that also lost. So again, a guy that just snuck out from underneath our feet here in the last week. So that's all that you've got left as far as guys that have playing experience that are on roster. So what does this team need? Well, a lot of offensive linemen. The entire offensive line either graduated or transferred out, but more importantly, they graduated, and that's going to be the hardest part. You have to rebuild the offensive line, and amongst other things, you've got to find some depth in the running back, the slot position at wide receiver, and that's going to be evident by a lot of these guys that we're going to be talking about here soon. And then on the defensive end, you got to replace everything. The entire defense transferred out, just about. You have, again, hardly any starting experience returning besides Chris Noble and Kalen Woods. And Jackson Lowe got a few starts too, but for the most part, the entire defense has to be rebuilt from the ground up. Even your linebacker group, you thought Alex Mitchell, the Murfreesboro native, Riverdale High School graduate, would return, and he also left. Muaz Byard, nephew of NFL star Kevin Byard, again, there's no loyalty in today's game, and he's moved on to UAB. And of course, we wish him nothing but the best. But certainly, some cornerstone guys you thought on the defense that you could count on to return this year, and that just wasn't the case. So you've got to rebuild the entire defense. So who are these guys that you have coming in? Well, to go back to our needs list, the offensive line, you've got, to answer the question, transfer portal, you've got 14 total commits, and three additional are JUCO commits if you count them transfer portal. But the offensive line needs help, and this is where Coach Mason and staff did their biggest looking as far as fulfilling the offensive line was via the transfer portal, and you're going to find a recurring theme as I go through all these transfers. But some of the bigger names here was Tim Jacobs from Ohio Dominican, a D2 school at 6'5", 315. Reese Tripp, an offensive tackle from Minnesota at 6'7", 335. Two huge human beings that certainly, I would say Tim Jacobs is going to have the most experience between those two. Reese Tripp, coming from Minnesota, was a highly touted high school recruit, but had to sit behind a future NFL lineman, so didn't get a lot of snaps there, but certainly has the build to be very productive here at a Conference USA school. But Tim Jacobs, I think, is by far one of the more intriguing pickups, and one of the early ones, too, for that matter. Then on the interior, you have Adrian Crespin from Virginia Union, a D2 school. Travaris Edwards, an offensive guard from West Florida, another D2 school. And then Chris Marino from Monmouth, who is an FCS school. And he is probably my favorite offensive line pickup. One of the top-rated guards, according to Pro Football Focus, allowed 0 sacks and was great in rush, in the pass rush. So I think Chris Marino is going to, and even Crespin for that matter, are going to be instant plug-and-play for the interior of that offensive line. I think when it's all said and done, Jacobs and Tripp are going to have some action on the outer ends. Not much. There's not much competing at tackle as far as I'm concerned. But outside of those two, I think those two are going to be your obvious picks, unless there's someone else in camp that might shine, or some of these freshmen from last year. I think of like Bo Bryan, Kyle Larkin, guys who may be able to beef up over the summer and kind of insert themselves back into it. But that offensive line today, again, having no film on some of these guys, I would think at left tackle to right tackle, it's Jacobs, Otto Van Rensburg, the returner from Sevier County. At center, you might have Alex Gale return. He had some starts there at the interior line. You might even put transfer Crespin in at center. No one really has center experience on this roster. The Monmouth transfer, Marino, is going to go to right guard, and then Reese Tripp is my best guess right now at right tackle. And when it's all said and done, Tripp may be, because of size and strength, he may be over at left tackle, and Jacobs goes to right. But right now, it's just so early, and that's still a topic of discussion I'm thinking about. Moving on to other needs, you got the slot wide receiver depth, as I touched on. Hogan Wasson from Central Missouri by way of Northwestern State. He's a D2 All-American, 135 receptions, 1,625 yards, and 8 touchdowns. That is a lot of yards for very few games. Hogan is your typical slot guy at 5'10", 180 pounds. I hate to be stereotypical because he's white, but he's like Wes Welker, very quick, has great hands, sure-handed slot wide receiver. I like him a lot. And someone like Cam Lacey, the reason I liked him was because of his sure-handedness and his quickness. And Hogan, being a D2 All-American, obviously has the pedigree to be successful. D2 guys they're still high-level players at D2 football. And if you're an All-American, again, props to you. You're able to move up to this level once again, as he was at Northwestern State, which is an FCS school. So I think he's a guy that's a plug-and-play. On the high school side of things, they did get Ethan Sherman and Zion Butler, 2 undersized wide receivers who I think, are depth pieces at the slot position. Now to the defensive side, a lot to replace there, and I'm not going to go through all these guys that they have committed, but there were 3 guys in particular that I really, really liked. Another D2 All-American, Jason Hardy. He held offers from James Madison in Western Kentucky, chose MTSU. Obviously, that's great in the recruiting ground of it all. But at 6'2", 185 pounds, he has 8 interceptions in his career. And then you got 2 P4 transfers. Dyson McCutcheon from Washington. Anyone that plays on a college football playoff team transferring MTSU is a big deal. And again, I say that he played in the defensive backfield for the Huskies. And so at 5'11", 182, coming out of high school, he's a top 30 cornerback in the country, and he's played over 24 games in his 3 seasons at Washington, so a guy that brings a lot of experience. And then a USC transfer, James Johnson, they have him listed as a nickelback at 5'9", 195 pounds, but he's an interesting piece. I have him listed for defense because on our roster they have him listed as a nickel, but at USC last year he actually played 5 games at running back. So I think the best appropriate way to list him would be an athlete, a guy that can really do anything you want him to, but given his size, I can see why they would list him at nickelback. He could even, he's a little undersized, but he could even still play cornerback position. But past that, the defensive line got some good additions in Justin Bodford from Missouri, Tracian Griffin from Troy, and Caven Call from ETSU. And Call is going to be the most experienced of those 3 guys coming from ETSU. He played in 12 games, had 4 tackles for loss and 2 sacks for ETSU last year. The reason I don't go through all these transfer picks is really I don't know how much what these guys bring to the table for MTSU. Very little experience across the board. For most of them, that doesn't mean anything, but it's hard to have tape on these guys to tell that you're necessarily getting something better in return for what you're losing. I'll say this much, and I don't want to sound like a pessimist, but they're trying something different. I'm not saying that should be celebrated, but in past, we've seen the P4 fall-offs. This year, they are obviously trying the D2 call-ups or the FCS call-ups. A lot of D2 guys, FCS guys on this transfer portal list. I'm not saying that's the solution to their problem, but they're trying something different. They're picking up the best from the programs below and seeing if that is a recipe for success. So I applaud them at least for that attempt, and I hope for the best. This group doesn't have a lot of experience, and so until we see them in spring, we see them in fall, see how this team meshes together, there's going to be a lot to just kind of figure out, see where this team really is, and maybe that surprise is what it's going to take for them to sneak up on the rest of Conference USA. But high school signees, they've got 11 guys signed, 12 players. The 12th one, I don't know that he is signed yet as I'm talking, but Robert Lathan Jr. committed this last week as a running back out of Columbus, Ohio, that chose MTSU over Liberty and had some P4 offers from Kentucky and Purdue. On the defensive line, they've already signed Jonas Jimerson, a 6'4", 215 from Jack State, and then Jam from Baylor, 6'2", 265 pounds. Those two guys, again, are going to help with that depth that we're looking for at defensive line. There's going to be a lot of competition on that defensive line this year from inexperienced young guys, and I'm excited to see who rises to the top and gets that playing time. But a lot to get over really in a short period of time on this transfer portal window. So I'm certain we will revisit this as we get closer to spring ball and fall. But when we come back, both basketball teams traveled to Ruston, Louisiana for the midweek and came up short. One was more heartbreaking than the other. The club hockey team is playing at Bridgestone Arena next Sunday, the 25th, and club president Zach Giblin is joining the show to talk about his nationally ranked #1 hockey club. After this commercial break, you're listening to the Blue Raider podcast presented by Gold's Gym of Tennessee on WGNS.
Whether you need general vehicle upkeep and maintenance or a complete vehicle overhaul, Hall's Auto Care is here for you. We're locally owned and operated by Greg Hall and have been in business since 2014. You'll get excellent service and trustworthy advice with Hall's Auto Care. A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau. We're ready to help get you safely on the road. Hall's Auto Care, 907 Ridgely Road, just off Broad Street behind Chili's. Online at hallsautocare.net. Hall's Auto Care.
Sign-ups are going on right now for First Shot's Winter Basketball League in Rutherford County. Coach Andy Herzer guides kids to sharpen basketball skills and build teamwork through exciting clinics and games. Since 2003, First Shot has empowered youth to grow in mind, spirit, and body. Don't miss out. Join the fun and develop lifelong skills. Visit FirstShotTN.org today and register for the Winter Basketball League. That's FirstShotTN.org.
This is Chip Walters, and I'm honored to be your 2024 MTAR Realtor of the Year. I'm with Exit Realty Bob Lamb & Associates, and like many of you, I've seen the real estate market shift and change. People often ask, Chip, what's really going on? Well, that's a great question, and I believe in answering with solid, factual data. So let's cut through some of the noise. I invite you to reach out. Let's have a conversation about your real estate goals and the current market trends in your neighborhood. You can find all my contact information at choosechip.net.
Jennings & Ayers Funeral Home has served Murfreesboro families with compassion and care since 1880. As a family-owned funeral home, we're committed to honoring every life with dignity through traditional services, cremation options, and pre-planning that gives you peace of mind. For over 140 years, we've been here when it matters most. Visit JenningsandAyers.com. Jennings & Ayers Funeral Home, honoring life and comforting families since 1880.
At State Farm, when home and auto work as a team, you score and save money. I'm State Farm agent Andy Wama. Give me a call at 615-890-0850 and let's work together to win big by saving money on home and auto. With the service you get from State Farm, you might think our car insurance costs more. I'm State Farm agent Andy Wama. Give me a call at 615-890-0850 and let me show you with discounts up to 40%. You may find it even costs less.
Clark Auction Company will get you top dollar for your property.